In this video, Laura Farms and Chief Industries highlight how innovation builds strong futures. So we realize that every industry, there's always bumps in the road, there's challenges, and I know right now the ag economy is feeling some of those challenges. Walk us through kind of how you're going head on with those challenges and what you guys are doing to weave your way through them.
Absolutely. So yes, of course, with any industry, there is a lot of challenges. With farming specifically, we deal with so many variables that unfortunately are just out of our control. So no matter how good of business decisions you make every day, you are dealing with weather and input costs that you have absolutely no say in, which is very scary. It's a very vulnerable place to be in. So I would say you have no control over that. So you really just have to roll with the punches. But right now, there is a lot of pressure. The commodity markets are just not looking so hot. So the thing that you can do is just be an informed grain marketer and intake a lot of information and talk with the resources that you do have at your disposal. So I try to have as many conversations with people that are way smarter than me as possible and kind of see what they're thinking. But right now in the ag and farming world, it's really just a bear down, grit your teeth, and try to make it through these years where there is just a lot of outside pressure.
And I know you guys have on-farm grain storage, right? So you store some, but you also bring some to ethanol plants and things like. How do you make those decisions of when to store and when to sell?
Wow, you are asking, that is the
$1,000,000 question.
That is the golden question right there. So like I said, I honestly intake a lot of information from social media. I would say I try to involve myself in lots of peer groups, and it's basically a game of asking everyone else what they're doing. So but it is truly the hardest decision is what do you do? And so I try to manage my risk as best as possible because I'm trying to be a sustainable farm in the sense that as a 5th generation farmer, I want my farm to be around long enough for a 6th, 7th, 8th generation. I'm trying to keep my farm alive and profitable for myself, but also the generations that are going to eventually be coming back. So just trying to intake as much information as possible. But sometimes you just have to bite the bullet and make a decision and see if it plays out. It's a big gamble, to say the least.
And I know, DJ, you're no stranger to thinking about these challenges and how you're adapting to them. With 70 plus years under Chief's belt in many different industries, what strategies have you used, or maybe your grandfather or dad used, in order to make it through and adapt?
Yeah, you have to adapt. If you don't adapt, you can be left behind really pretty quickly. So, our business model has kind of changed over the years, but one thing that holds true is half of our business has a dealer-based business model. So you sell through a dealer, kind of like Chevy or Ford as an example. And so over the years, we would sell, let's say we're Chevy and our competitors brand X. So we would sell to them and we'd say, hey, here's the 4 product offerings we have. This is what you get. Take it and be happy with it. Those were it's kind of the way it used to be done. But it's really evolved to today. We still sell through a dealer or a builder, but it's about listening to the customer and it's about listening to their needs. We mentioned before, like our houses have hundreds of different floor plans. So the options that we provide our customers now is far different than it used to be. What was it? Henry Ford used to say, you could have any color of cars so long as it was black. And that's kind of the way we were too, is like, here is our offering. So we have evolved in that sense that we listen. You really have to listen to the customer. Very, very important stakeholder.
On the other hand, I would say what's so nice about being a family operation is that you have your parents and grandparents to lean on, years and years of experience and information. Because, I'm new to this. I'm a 5th generation, but that doesn't mean I know everything by any means. So I would say a huge part of decision making for me is relying on the people that came before me. What would you have done in this situation? Those kinds of things.
A lot of wisdom there in there.
So much wisdom. Yes. So trying to take advantage of that, I would say, is the other thing I really try to do.
Good point.
And for a company, there's opportunity to go public, but the Chief has remained a private company. So why is it so important to keep it that private, family-owned business?
Laura, you mentioned 5th generation and you want to build yours to the 6th and the 7th. And I think the same can be said about us as a family company as well. We just have a lot of pride in that. This is who we are. And we often tell ourselves, if we weren't doing this, what would we be doing? So I think when you have a passion for what it is you do, why would you step away from your passion? And so, yeah, being public is stepping away from who we are. The beautiful thing about being family or privately owned is you get to make decisions that are in the long run, and they're not based on meeting next month or next quarter's results. And so we're not driven that way. We're driven for the long haul, and we love it.
And we see that innovation, technology is always influencing us. We can't turn around without a phone or social media or something that's influencing how we're seeing things, how we're building things. So can you talk about how innovation is affecting farming? Because there's so much that's going into that.
There is so much that's going on with that. So on one hand, the things that I do with Laura Farms, my social media company, which would be sharing the story of agriculture, partnering with brands like Chief to be able to get the word out about what the whole sector of ag is doing, is really cool. And that's actually one of the ways that I am able to profit off of my story and my experiences, which is able to help carry my farm through these high pressure years, which is something no one else has ever had access before. Any generation before has never been able to do something like that. So on that hand, like the social media innovation has been integral on our operation. We would not be able to be expanding in the ways that we are without social media, which is really incredible. And it's also kind of a big honor because I'm able to share the story and educate a whole new generation of children what ag actually looks like, and hopefully inspire them to actually be involved in ag, which is really, really cool.
Have you had expansion recently that you guys have looked at or are doing?
Yes, yeah. So Grant and I actually just went in and bought the 80 across the road from our house, which is so special. This is a piece of ground that we've been renting for quite a while, and the landowner actually approached us and asked if we would be willing to purchase it from him. So a big stretch, and once again, so hard for something like that to pencil in a year like this. It financially makes no sense, but thinking about future generations, I'm willing to carry that risk, and I want to grow sustainably. You know, I don't want to put the farm under, but when you look at a decision like that, I want to be able to offer the future generations the best. And it's hard to turn down something that's right across the road. There's really no other answer to something like that. But yes, we are, I would say I'm not in full expansion mode by any means. I want to grow sustainably is what I'm looking at.
And so, Laura, you have a really bright future leading up to it. I know, DJ, you had some amazing successes. Is there a piece of advice you would give to someone like Laura or your daughter, Lauren, as they're stepping into these roles and looking at how they are going to be sustainable, building it for the next generations? Any piece of advice you would give them?
Well, you know, maybe I should ask advice from Laura, because when she talks about the opportunities that are provided to you today, you're taking, I wouldn't say advantage, you're maximizing those opportunities. And I commend you for that, buying your first property or buying the property across the road. Those are all really important decisions for sure. So I would say probably I would like to get advice from Laura on that, probably.
Oh, I don't know about that. I would just say I am really honored to be partnered with Chief. Truly, it is a brand that I feel so comfortable standing fully behind. And I don't like to just put my name behind anyone. And so I just really appreciate the people in every aspect of Chief. It is truly an honor to be working with you guys over the past couple of years. It's very, very special. So,
and the same goes to you. And thank you for that. I mean, we take our name very seriously and we work hard at it. And to be associated with like-minded people is very important. So.
Absolutely. I agree.
And Laura, you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of people you lean on in order to look at the commodity market, different decision points that are coming in. And I know, DJ, for Chief too, you're involved in so many different organizations. Are there people that you lean on a regular basis, just as you're looking forward of how are we going to continue these 7 brands as we move on?
There are. And, you know, you mentioned earlier about your grandparents and people. We all have networks. We all have people that we go to. I have a peer group that I stay in contact with, knowing that they're maybe going through similar stresses or maybe they have the same opportunities in front of them. I think it's important. It kind of validates some of your thinking when you can go to peer groups. I talk to a lot of our suppliers. They're so keen into the industries that we serve. They're an important partner that we talked about earlier. And our customers, you know, we have advisory councils in our business units. And the reason we do that is that they're such a wealth of knowledge and they're so experienced at what they do. And you'd be foolish not to to tap into that. So I do. I've got a circle of trusted advisors that I go to all the time.
Boy, yeah, I would say that's so valuable, such a valuable piece of advice, even for someone that is farming, to be looking at the companies that you work with on a day-to-day basis. Sometimes they have a much broader scope and they're not so closely attached to what they're doing in the day-to-day. So if you can kind of step off the farm and talk to someone who kind of has a broader vision, I think that can be so helpful.
Completely
and
agree.
you can find things that maybe aren't even in the ag business that are very relatable, and you can take their best practices and find out how it works best for you as well.
Absolutely. I think we all have a lot more in common across different businesses than you would usually guess from first glance.
I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. So
Well, there's a lot of years left in this family businesses, the generations that are coming. So very excited to see what's next. And I'm sure if we sat down again in 5 years from now, there'd be a lot of differences that we'll talk about then as we are talking about today. So it'll be exciting. We'll see where the future takes us.
awesome.
That's great.
Thank you.
Check out the links in the description below to connect with Chief Industries and Laura Farms.